Welcome to the Luxury and Legacy Spotlight. Today we are here with Matt with A1 Solutions Group.
Yep, because
Yeah.
people seem to forget that part. A1 Solutions. All right, I'm gonna call you Mick Matty McFatty. Then you're gonna mispronounce my business name. That right, you know.
Because he says people always leave off the group, so we have
They do.
to be mindful. Awesome. So Matt, today we are talking. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Matt. Tell us about yourself, about A1 Solutions Group, all that good stuff. What are
Simple.
you? What today we're
I'm.
talking
Yeah, no,
credit
I'm
matters.
awesome. That's all people need to know. I'm awesome. Then they should just work
Yeah,
with us. Duh. Just
that
kidding.
works.
As far as about me, I am a former Marine. That was real fun. Let me tell you that. I can go stories. Did that. Graduated from University of Maryland College Park with the degree in family studies. Clearly, I've used that to my advantage doing credit repair. But that's a whole story in itself too, as well. Did that, and I've had an interesting path of trying out different things to see what is that. I've always like things I really wanted to do.
Okay.
Along the way, this goes into all this. Credit was one of the things that, like a lot of people, I ignored it, didn't understand it. Really got into the credit game at the age of 27 when I declared bankruptcy, which was I was relieved. I had some relief, and there's also a lot of shame and guilt. So if you ever had to do it, I felt it. I understand. No shame in it. You had to do. All right. Got into credit repair there, got certified, didn't do anything. Didn't feel confident, didn't have any of the resources. You're not really knowing what to do. Did some other stuff. Then 2016, got back into it again. I was affiliated with another company. I was working with business owners. At the time, I was selling small business funding. So they went hand in hand, sent them over. Then that stopped. And then as in 2018, I believe, got back into it again. This time more committed, where again I was selling small business funding. And at the time I met now my business partner and got involved. We're talking, then just threw myself into it to really understand it, and learned a lot. Been working mine, helping a lot of people to really help them understand like how this thing works. And that is a game. If you choose to look at it, it's a game. Play it, and you know what I mean. Because so many people like myself don't understand it. You try to ignore it. You get frustrated by it. You hate it, and then you're trying to go apply for something. And then they're like, "Hey, there's a credit check," and you go, well, hopefully, maybe, and then inside you get anxious, and you're hoping like maybe this time they'll give me like a shot, or they'll look at me different, and all these things, and then you get shut down again, and I'll end at this. Then they don't tell you anything. All you do is get a notice in the mail that gives you some general reasons to why you didn't get approved, and you're like, okay, it doesn't make sense to you because most people don't read credit reports. Or they may tell you why, which is even more of a sting, and it just makes you go, I'm just gonna feel real small and just do this.
Oh, yeah. So that's why we dove into Credit Matters, right? So this month,
Right.
guys, for those of you who don't know, this month is Credit Matters month here at Luxury Homes, DMV Luxury Home, Luxury Legacy, DMV Luxury Homes. And so, for us, we're all about building generational wealth through real estate entrepreneurship, building a legacy, and credit is a huge part of that, right? In order to build a legacy, in order to take advantage of some of these financial opportunities and leverage some opportunities, we need to have our credit in order. So Matt is one of the experts that we have with us here this month, who's going to talk to us about credit, why it matters. He's going to tell us about the history of credit, which is interesting. I've never heard this. And then also what we can do to keep our credit together in check, and how we can use it as a tool in our toolbox to build generational wealth and build a legacy. Sound good, Matt?
Sounds good. All right. The history of credit. No one knows about this. Well, actually, I want to say this. Very few people do, and it seems to be every time I go over it, people are always like, "I had no idea," because it's not taught. It's not taught the history. It needs to be taught in schools, and because if it's not, it just wrecks you in more ways than you are aware of, which I'll cover a bit later.
Okay.
But let me bring this up, share my screen. All right. All right. Can you see my screen?
We can see your screen.
All right, cool.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to go over this a little bit. So, as it loads, cool. Game of credit. Know the game, play the game. I came up with that myself. You're very welcome. All right, so Michelle and anyone watching this, here's a pop quiz because I like to keep this interesting because credit is so exciting, said nobody ever, right? So, how old is credit? Is it A, 5,000 years old, B, 70, or C, about 100 to 150 years old?
Ooh. Guess, guys. What do you think? Those who are watching, I'm going to guess C.
You said C?
I did.
Okay.
Let's see. What
We're
are you
going
guys
with
guessing in the audience? I know there's some lag, so no one said anything yes. But so let's just. I'll vote for everyone today. It'll be C.
All right, cool. So for the lag, and for those of you who said C, congratulations. You're
Who
absolutely
said
wrong.
C? Yeah.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
So credit's old. It's old as
Wow.
any. It's old. It's been around for 5,000 years old, and this is the history. And when you find this out, you're gonna go
Wow.
like, "Wow!" 'Cause think about it. You know what I mean? So time a little bit. Antiquity, 3,800 BC in Sumer. Sumer is the first urban civilization with about 89% of its population living in cities. So it's thought that consumer loans for agricultural purposes are first used here. Okay. Babylon, 1800 BC. The Code of Hammurabi is written, formalizing the first known laws around credit. Hammurabi establishes the maximum interest rates that can be used legally. So, loans of grain, the max you can charge is 33.3% per year. For silver, 20% per year. But to be valid, the loans have to be witnessed by a public official and recorded as a contract.
That's some high interest, right? Is
Yeah.
that the interest rate?
Yeah, but that hasn't
33%?
gone around. If your credit's bad, your car loan could be like 25% interest. Okay. So it's still happening.
Sheesh.
Roman Republic, 50 BC. Around this time, Cicero notes that his neighbor bought 625 acres of land for 11.5 million sesterces, if I'm saying it correctly, which I probably not, but that's okay. So, did it literally carry 11.5 tons of coins through the streets of Rome? Absolutely not. I'm not going to try to read the actual language, I'll butcher that, but the translation says he uses credit to complete the purchase. All right, moral concerns about lending, because the Dark Ages were the greatest time ever in human history. After the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, economic activity grinds to a halt. The church bans usury, the practice of charging interest on loans for all laymen under Charlemagne's rule, 768 to 814 AD. Lend, expect nothing in return, Luke 6:35. That didn't last that much longer because the discovery is 1500. Now, spoiler alert, you'll see it. You see it going on from here. England leads the way going forward from here, and they are the, how do I say this, influencer, or the reason why we have our credit design the way it is today. So 1500, European explorers and merchants begin trade missions to faraway lands. The need for capital and credit increases. 1545, also in England, after the Reformation, the first country to establish a legal rate of interest is England in 1545. During the reign of Henry VIII, because he was so loved and loved all of his wives, right? The rate is set at 10%. England again, 1787. Philosopher Jeremy Bentham writes a treatise called A Defense of Usury, arguing that restrictions on interest rates harm the ability to raise capital for innovation, which I agree, long as it's not too high. If risky new ventures cannot be funded, then growth becomes limited. Modern consumer credit, England again, 1803. Credit reporting itself originated in England in the early 19th century. A group of English sailors come together to swap information about customers who failed to settle their debts. Is the earliest available account of credit reporting. So yeah, back in the day, they would really talk crap about you if you didn't pay your stuff back, which people today still do. However, it gets even better. Boom, England again, 1826. The Manchester Garden Society is formed and begins issuing a monthly newsletter with info about people who fail to pay their debts. So I want you to understand this.
Oh,
Back in the day, England didn't care. They're like, "Yo, you ain't paying your debts. I'm putting yourself on blast in a local newspaper for everyone in
oh
the
my
mom to see,"
gosh.
which is the extreme opposite of where things are right now, where credit's very personal. All right.
Mhm.
But that back then they'd be like, "Oh, John Smith, you want to borrow 100 grand? Let me look you up." Bye, Felicia. So that's what they did. It's crazy how it
Oh
changes.
my gosh.
So yes, fast forward more. Atlanta, 1899, the retail credit company is founded, begins
Mm.
compiling an extensive list of creditworthy customers. But this company changes name to Equifax. So Equifax, as great as they are, is the
Mm.
oldest of the three major credit agencies in the United States, especially with all those breaches coming along. Yeah. USA 1955, early credit reporters used millions of index cards, so you can imagine how many errors there were back then, sorted in a massive filing system to keep track of consumers around the country.
Wow.
So back then what they did to get the latest info, agencies would look at the local newspapers for notice of arrests, promotions, marriages, and deaths, attaching this information to individual credit files. And unfortunately, back then they would focus more on the negative stuff than the good things. So yeah, and that hairdo always gets me. 1964, the Association of Credit Bureaus in the U.S. conducts the first studies into the application of computer technologies to credit reporting. Accuracy of data is also improved around this time by standardizing credit application forms. So that is the
Woo.
history of credit as far as that goes.
Woo.
Yeah, I know. Things people don't even know.
So that's how we arrived here. So when you first studied that, what was the most shocking part about the history of credit?
The age,
Like,
how old it was, because I used to I had my insurance license, and I know insurance old. Insurance has been around since it's old. It's old as credit.
wow.
So I know that's nothing new, but I thought credit was like 100 years, something like that, because I remember learning in school about the Great Depression, and they talked about credit then. So I'm like, all right, so it's relatively new. No, it's been
Yeah.
going on for centuries, and people just don't know, and this is
And
why I
you know
go.
what's so funny is that once you said the 5,000 and the initial shock wore off, right? And some of our viewers got it right, right,
Yeah,
Brandon? So I was like, I got it right. But for me, now it clicks because even in the Bible, right, they talk about credit and how you should handle debt. So this has been around for a long time. So hey guys, for those again that are just joining us, we're talking Credit Matters today with Matt with A1 Solutions Group. We just talked about the history of credit. I know we have some financial planners that are watching, some realtors, people who are looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, or just build a legacy and leverage credit. So drop in the chat. Let us know where you're from, what area you're in, what line of business you're in, or why you're here. Like, what questions do you have about credit? All right, Matt. So give us some of the good stuff. So right now,
the good
a
stuff.
lot of people, some of the good stuff. Right? Give us your number one tip for how to build and maintain a healthy credit profile.
Okay, I will start. Here's the thing: people have to know, and I have more slides on this, which I can bring up if you want me to, because people like to look at illustrations. So it starts with knowing how to read your credit report, and this goes into another question. So pop quiz again, ladies and gentlemen. There are 4 tiers to your credit report. I'll help you out with this one, right? The 4 tiers are personal information. You got your hard inquiries, your accounts, that's your credit cards, loans, all that stuff, public record. Public record holds your evictions, not charge offs, bankruptcies, and judgments. Okay. So out of those 4, which is the one that you want to make sure is the most up to date? I'll repeat it again. 4 tiers credit report:
Mm.
personal information, hard inquiries, your accounts, public record. Out of the 4, which is the one you want to make sure is the most up to date?
So what do you guys say? I'm gonna guess, so we won't have too much of a pause. I'm gonna say personal information.
Okay, I got you. One personal information.
One for personal
I'm not. No,
information.
no. This point is questions to see what people know, what people don't know.
Yeah, and they're gonna circle back. So while they're coming up with their answer, give us your what's your number one tip besides that the response to this one.
Well, this goes into that because a lot of people don't know this. Um, the answer to that question is your personal information. So you are correct. Anyone else who answers that. But here's why. All right. There's a lot of things
Okay.
because people look at the credit report, everyone focuses on the accounts and they ignore like everything else. You can't because when someone pulls your report, they see everything. So if I was a tip, you need to know how to read it, know what's on everything with all three bureaus, not just two, Credit Karma, or one thinking that's the one that everyone uses, right? But the personal information, okay, that's your most important one because number one, if you're a person who's trying to repair your credit, you have some negative stuff. What happens is anything in that section, because that section holds like your name, current address, previous addresses, employers, birth date, social, all that stuff. You may have variations of your name. It happened to me. I'm experienced. I had like 9 different variations of my name. One was grossly misspelled, and I was like, I didn't put that down in any application. How did it get
Who
there?
is that?
But that
Right.
happens, right? So the other thing too is as you're trying to dispute stuff on your file, right? The bureaus, anything in that section that's old, erroneous, and negative and outdated, are attached to negative items on your credit report. What the bureaus will do, because they get lazy, they'll be like, all right, you're disputing this in one account. What name and address stuff is attached to? And if that stuff is, if it's attached to name and address that's old or not yours, guess what they'll say? Verified, it's you. Well, how do you know that? You don't know
Mm,
that. You think you're only Michelle Moore, United States? No, you're not. There's another woman named that,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's the thing people don't know.
Yeah.
That's number
There were
one.
fewer Michelle Heatleys. Maybe none. But
Maybe.
once
I mean,
once
I
I
could be
married
Michelle if I wanted to. It's 2021. Everyone's being whatever they want, so screw it. Why not? You know what I mean?
kick me out, yeah.
I know. So you have that. Number two, um, when you are applying for credit, right? If you put down an address on the application that does not match the address that the bureau that they use or bureaus that they use have on file, you can be declined just because of that happened to a colleague of mine recently as well. Number
Mm.
three, you never update that section. If you never update the section, never check it, you have no idea what's on there. You may rack up a whole bunch of different variations of your names, addresses, phone numbers, more social, all that stuff. Therefore, when people pull it, again, they see that, and you tell them you're Michelle Morton, but you have Michelle A. Morton or Michelle Tawana Horton and all these different names, they're gonna go, yeah, you look very fraudulent, shady, declined. Okay, so there's that, and then another reason before, or number three, whichever number we're on, we have old addresses on there as well. There's a good chance someone else is living at that old address. If they run into financial difficulty, you run the risk of having their negative
Mm.
items placed on your file as well. And then the
Yeah.
last one, I say best for last. When you call up the bureau, so you have to use one by one. And I can provide the form. You can email it to people who are on here. You call the bureaus and update the information. All right. Just by doing that one thing and updating it can potentially boost your credit scores anywhere between 20 to 70 points. Just that one part alone. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's live.
So
That's that one section packs a lot of punch, and it's never talked about. People don't talk about that. They don't talk about our inquiries. The focus is on this is the accounts. No, 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 no. You need to know what's on that sucker for all three, and
mm.
have a Credit Karma is not the end all be all. It is a start, my friends. It is not the end.
hmm And so, guys, what he basically said was personal information. So, the number one thing that people overlook that really has an impact on your credit profile, and this is whether you have a 400 credit score or a 750, right? Keep that personal information clean because one slip up can mess you up and take a lot to get back on track. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Awesome. And Jamila summarized it for us. Updating your personal information on your credit report can potentially raise your score by 20 to 70 points. A
Yep, and
massive.
that varies for per person. I mean, I think for me it was like it went up 50. Some people made 50, some was 20. It just depends. So
Awesome. And we do have a realtor in the house from Williamsburg, Virginia. Thanks for joining us. You guys, there's a link somewhere down there where you can click on and StreamYard will show your faces. So that way we love meeting new people in
Yeah,
business.
you got to
So
click on give it permission, then we can see your face and all that
I
fun
get to your
stuff.
beautiful faces. Awesome. All right, Matt. So with personal information, so you gave us some other categories. You said accounts, you said
Mhm.
inquiries. What would you say is the next important thing that we should work on or look out for or manage?
You have okay, so you need to know what's on all the four G's your credit report, right? And you need to know what's on all three bureaus, which leads into the next part of knowing that one. I know I don't want to say my mind just went blank. One, not everybody reports to all three, and number two, not everybody pulls from all three. All right. So your
Mm,
information on all the bureaus is never going to be uniform. Your scores aren't going to be all the same. One might be high, one might be very low. They may be in the same range ish. The other thing too is that the bureaus all work independently of one another, which is why some people can submit docs to say, "Hey, this needs to come off," and then it may come off. It may come off out of like two of the bureaus, but the third one may be lagging behind. Okay. So they're not the same. They're private entities too, by the way. They're not owned by the government. So a lot of people don't know that too as
absolutely.
well. So I would say that. And the other thing you want to keep in mind is, where's I going with this? I kind of forgot. Private entities. You can also dispute anything on your credit report. You have the legal right to do so by the Fair Credit Reporting Act. It does not matter if it is false, if you know it's yours, if you
Mm,
don't think it's yours, if you think it may be yours, if it's positive or negative, you can do that because the credit bureaus make mistakes all the time. All right. And you may have something on your file that, unfortunately, here's the thing: when they make a mistake on your credit, they're not going to tell you. You'll find out either by one applying, which is the worst time, or if you check your credit regularly, or we have some sort of credit monitoring that tells you, hey, is this you? What's going on with this? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So you do want to check your credit report once a month, at the very most twice. Um, you don't need to go overboard and check it once a week or every day because the credit bureaus only update once a month anyway. And I do believe until April of next year, I think, if I remember correctly, you can still get your credit report for free while we're in a hole in this pandemic for once a week. Okay. But again, you don't need to see it once a week. That's overkill. So the creature of what is that? Recommend the creature
Jekyll
of
Island.
Oh,
I
the
don't know.
creation of Jekyll Island. Yeah. I know he's talking about the history of money and the Federal Reserve. That's a different conversation. I know he's talking about. So, creation of Jekyll Island, the
Awesome.
creature, beef jerky. So, but yeah. And the next thing, and like I said, credit is not the sexiest topic in the world, but I want to focus on this too, on the components of your credit score. Okay, because a lot of people. Here's the thing: whenever I see that little circle, I go, okay, pay my bills on time, and I'm like, all right, done. No, there's way more to it than just paying your bills on time. All right, so yes, 35% of your score, which is the biggest chunk, is paying your bills on time. You miss one payment, depending on where your credit score is, that can drop you anywhere between 50 to 150 points. Then, if you do miss a payment, that late payment stays on your credit report for 7 years. And number two, even if you make the payment on time next month, you don't get your points back. You get those points back gradually. So
Mm.
please do not miss a payment. If it's only the minimum, just make the minimum. It's better than getting smacked in the face with a late payment and your score plummets. And you're like, crap. Okay.
So let's talk
So
about this a little bit, Matt. So late payments, guys, no late payments. If you can, beg, borrow, and steal to avoid the late payments. Matt, I'm having a hard time. I'm feeding all these babies and I miss a payment. Where do I go from there?
So what you can do is you can talk with the creditor. You can also send a letter to get like, look, can I get updated and send a letter of like a good faith payment update due to financial difficulty? That can be done too as well. But the best way to do it is beforehand as you're going through this. Call up all your creditors, people you owe money to, and say, look, I'm going through a rough time. What can be worked out? And do that. Because if you don't do that and then you try and call them, what they'll say is, well, we can't do anything. Then they'll tell you that you have to dispute it with the bureaus, which can take time. So the best thing is, if you're not going to talk to them right now, even if you miss payments already, just call and talk and see what can be arranged, because you don't want to, like I did back in the day, is just let this up pile up. And then when you work on it, then you go, I should have done this like 5-10 years ago. Just work with it as you can, because the problem is, and I said this too before, with this whole pandemic and everyone else who isn't working on the credit now, the amount of work they have to do once this is over will be a lot just to get back to where they were before it happened. And that's not something people think about. Versus, all right, let me do the best I can with what I got now, because trust me, that's a lot better than going slowly than not doing anything and then letting it pile up. And then you're like, I wish I'd done this so many years ago. It's like trying to get in shape, you know? There are people who let themselves get to like 400, 500 pounds, and their journey starts off slow, but they get there, they keep it up. Whereas if you're like, hey, you know what? I'm not in the best shape now, but I'm starting doing something, you're better off than just waiting, or until the doctor says you got 6 months and let's change your game up. So
Absolutely. And so, guys, one of the things that the nuggets that we're going to pull from what Matt said is that you have to manage your credit profile proactively, right? Don't wait till it's broken. Don't wait till something goes wrong. I remember a lesson from one of my uncles, one of my favorite people in the world, and I was young, right out of college. I had student loans, and I caught my student loan, and they were like, "Girl, you have to pay on these now, right? You have to
you're
you have
like,
to pay
no,
on
wait,
them."
what? I have a job. We don't care. You
Right.
signed a document. We're coming
You
for you.
you signed up for this, right?
Right.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, I called my uncle. He was like, yes, girl, pay them, right? And so, the lesson that he gave me was take care of your business, or your business will take care of you, right? His which was his
Yes.
way of saying be proactive about your business. And so when it comes to credit, even if you think that your profile is perfect, it probably could be cleaner, it could be better. Check out that personal information, be mindful of inquiries. I want to dive into this a little bit. So Brandon says the credit system and medical record system are so similar. We can't see what's on your records a lot of the times, and it can be wrong. What are some tips and advice? A lot of people coming out of COVID will have, and I know it's a problem for a lot of mothers as well, right?
Yeah.
Medical bills. How does that impact your credit, and what can you do about it?
So medical bills, unfortunately, by the way, fun fact, no truth. Hospitals check your credit too. It is a soft pull,
Wow.
but they check the sucker too, even if you have health insurance. So yeah, so your credit has grown. So hospital bills, unfortunately, if you have them, the hospital is a business. The nurses and doctors want to help you, but the hospital is a business entity and needs money. Okay, that's how the hospital looks at it. So the hospital is going to be like, all right, I can't collect. I will then sell it to a debt collector. Okay, and debt collectors, by the way, everybody, buy these debts in bulk, in mass, by the accounts, not the contract. This is why they have to get you on to verify everything and get a contract that way. But with medical bills, they can go into collections, and they go in your credit report, and that has a negative impact on your credit history and credit report. Okay. Same thing with our collections. If you pay those, unfortunately, your credit goes nowhere, because they're not part of the components of credit score, which I want to go into a little bit. But as far as credit, not credit, medical collections go, the trick with them is, one thing is, look, if a debt collector's calling you about that, one of the things you want to say is like, well, when they get the account, they're seeing your, I don't say medical history, what was done on you. And it's a violation of HIPAA. Okay. Because no one's supposed to know your medical stuff unless you choose to share it. So one of the things they have to provide is like your HIPAA transcript. And if they don't, they can be sued for a lot of money. And people don't know this stuff when it comes to collections, because they're afraid. A lot of people don't know their rights on this thing. So the debt collectors know this, and they prey upon your ignorance and your fear to get you to pay on something that legally you don't, that you can challenge on. Because at the end of the day, again, this is my collection general. I can come up to you, Michelle, and be, hey, are you Michelle? Last morning, like, yeah, this last for your social, Is this the last for your account? Yeah. Okay, you owe me $3,000. Like, who in the world are you? But that's what people don't realize. They have
Yeah.
to provide the receipts to show that this is yours. Otherwise, they'd be collecting debt on people illegally and make millions
So much
upon millions of
money.
dollars. You know,
Matt, what is a HIPAA transcript?
that is it's your medical records and things like that. So the HIPAA transcript is what basically is saying what operation, what was done for you to you when you went to the doctor or the hospital. Basically, that's again personal information like a credit, right? That
Yeah.
when you're going to get health insurance, they look at the MIB, the Medical Information Bureau, and they look this stuff up. But that's what that is. So, but again,
So
it's personal information that like no one's supposed to see, but between you and your doctor and anyone else that
yeah.
you authorize, and people don't know that stuff. So,
Yeah. And so basically, guys, what Matt is saying is that we have a little bit of leverage, right? So if there are medical bills on your credit report, technically they shouldn't be there, right? Because if I have a medical bill for, a mommy makeover, right? then everyone knows, all these creditors, anyone who looks at my report will know what type of procedures that I have. And the whole thing with medical information, it should be private. So that gives us some loopholes and stuff on how to manage those. Even though, like, I want you guys to know that we are all about paying your debt, right? So if you have a debt, even if you have it removed from your credit report, it can come back, right? So at least still try to manage that debt in some way. So let's dive into that, Matt. What about stuff that, oh my gosh, Matt, I've been fighting. I've gotten all this stuff removed from my credit report and it just keeps coming back. Like, what am I supposed to do?
so I know with us, we've gotten stuff deleted from people's credit reports and it doesn't come back. The only way that it would come back is if when a debt collector, because you're with debt collectors, if one can't collect from you, they'll then sell the account to another debt collector, and it can keep on going. And this is why you want to challenge stuff, because they're selling it. It keeps being sold, so the chance of them having this stuff to like prove it as yours just decreases quite a bit. It's like a game of telephone. It's like, you really think you're gonna get the original message 10 people down, you know what I mean, or years down the road. So that's one reason why I'd come back on. You can continue to dispute it. Now, if it comes down to it where you got no other option, where all right, to pay it, you want to do what's called a negotiate a pay for deletion. All right. Because, like I said, if you pay on a charge-off account or a repo or a collection account and you don't ask for that, it's not going to go away. People wrongly think this. What's going to happen is it'll go from an unpaid collection charge-off to a paid collection charge-off, which is still a derogatory item on your credit report. People see that. They're not going to ask you what happened. They're going to see these things and go, okay, so you had all these accounts, you let them go, didn't give a damn, and now you want something from us?
Yeah.
So that means they're going to decline you and not give you the best offer. That's how you look on paper, okay? Yeah. But you want to negotiate pay for deletion this way, and if you do negotiate pay for deletion with anybody, get it in writing. Get it in writing. Get the sucker in writing. Especially with debt collectors, because they're money motivated. So once they get the money, they'll be like, "Oh, sorry, peace," you know. So this we have in writing, because what's supposed to do is update with the bureaus. The bureaus update it and take it off your account. And then if they don't, you have something as proof to get the bureaus to then update it off, because you don't want stuff on. Because at the end of the day, too, not only is the paid collection account, paid charge, paid repo, all that stuff still damaging, it's a zombie file. It's not doing anything for you. It's just sitting there looking nasty, like a nasty wart. It's not really killing you, but if it wasn't on you, you prefer that, right? See what I mean? Yeah. So that's how you want to handle that at the end of the day, too. But at the end of the day, too, you got to realize that like these debts get sold and passed around, and debt collectors do a lot of legal things. One of the things they've been doing recently is doing what's called illegal debt parking, meaning they'll place a debt that's obviously not yours on your credit report and get you to pay it.
Wow.
Yep.
That's deep.
So you have to know to report them to the CFPB, State Attorney General, and then you can also one of the things you can also ask them is find out if they have like a bond or whatever, and challenge them on that, because they can get sued for like minimum of $1,000 per violation to like $5,000 or $10,000. Because one of the things that we're that we'll be bringing back soon for our clients is being able to scan through the credit reports for debt collectors and what violations they have. And then if there's something that's worth it, have our attorney who work on your behalf, no extra cost, to then sue them and you get some money. And one client we did this with a couple years ago got $75,000 awarded to them.
Wow. Do you take
So,
a cut?
huh?
Do you take a cut?
I wasn't there for that part, unfortunately. but this is what people don't know, that like you have to know your rights and study this stuff, and don't be afraid, because like they know you're not going to know, and they're going to just bully you anyway. So, but hey, this is something that we'll be bringing to our clients, so that if we'll look at that, see if you got something, let you know, and because they will just run you over and don't care.
Awesome. So, guys, again, this is another one of Matt's lessons in being proactive with your credit report. Whether you have a 450 or a 650 or a 750, there could be erroneous things on there that could keep you from leveraging your credit to, buy that investment property or buy your first home or whatever the next move for you is. So, we have a
Jamila,
Facebook. Yeah.
I'm sorry, continue.
Yep. We have a Facebook user. I am a realtor in Maryland, DC. Hey, local DMV that takes advantage of Michelle's trainings, which are great. Hearts. Thank you. Thank you for this one. And I will be contacting Matt to use as a resource. You have
Yep.
me flabbergasted for myself and my clients. Also, Matt, how do they find you?
How did you find me?
How
Oh,
no, how do
I was
how
like,
do
you
Facebook
called
users
me and I was
find
like,
you?
hey, what's up? What do you need? You're like, yo, are you mad? I'm like, yeah, you credit? Yeah, let's talk. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They
And
can
I want to give
reach
a
me.
shout out really quick. I found Matt. I was introduced to him through Wyvicha Jordan, who's an amazing female Black owned brokerage in Fort Washington, Maryland. She's amazing. That's how I met Matt. She's amazing. Her and her team called the Home Team Lifestyle.
Yep. They want to reach me. Can I type in my stuff in the chat or
Yeah,
whatnot?
Jamila will drop it. Jamila will drop it for you. Who we have a question from. So if you have multiple student
Yeah.
loans, is it better to consolidate them or pay them off one at a time? Which looks more favorable on your credit report?
Here's no
Ooh.
late payments on student loans. I can tell you that much.
Mhm.
Just paying them suckers in time. So in the student loan round, what I can tell you this: if you can get them consolidated into one, do that. If you're able to manage multiple loans and still pay them, fine. Just get them consolidated, because student loans are a problem. And if you're waiting on student loan forgiveness, I will say this is my opinion: don't hold your breath. Okay. We do have an affiliation with a company called studentloansurvivors.com. I can send you a link where you schedule a free consultation with them and they can see what programs you have to qualify for. But if you have problems with student loans, Michelle can send a link out, schedule a consultation, see what's available and get that under control, because that will wreck you, like wreck my credit report. And you don't want to have to deal with them after all that stuff, because student loans don't care. They'll come at you hard. Again, they'll just come at you because they're like, you had your fun, pay me now, which is really
Mm,
jacked up. It's a trap,
yeah.
because it's a $1.5 trillion problem, which I don't think is going to end well for a lot of
Yeah.
people. So
Yeah. And this is my stance on student loans, right? Because again, we're all here about generations and building legacies. And I feel like when student loans really came about, and I don't know the real age, but what I'll talk about is a generation before us, right?
yeah,
Hardworking people, they wanted better opportunities for us and their children. So of course the government's like, hey, we'll give you this money. And
yeah, don't take
you
it.
yeah, you could send your children to school, right, for this very
Right.
low interest. And our parents hopped on it, and they in no way knew that we would have this boulder on our back that would be hard to get rid of, right? So, what I think that we can do from when it comes to student loans from a legacy building standpoint is make sure you're putting money away for the next generation, so that way they don't have this thing strapped to their back as they start building their legacy. Now, if it's a situation where it's not go to college or take advantage, maybe that's a discussion, that's a personal choice. But if you can be proactive.
Yeah, I would say this. It all comes down to financial literacy, financial education, because loans, credit, investing, it's really not talked about in our community, and it's sad. Because if we were taught this from a younger age, I guarantee would be doing different things with our money. We go different places, right? And so I need to get back this week into developing, making a game for credit for children.
Ooh.
Brandon, I agree with you. They do. Let's call it what it is. Call a spade a spade. But knowing it's knowing about the game and working with it to your advantage versus playing into it, letting them just bury you in crap. So, and that's what it is. But it comes down to just being, aware of saying this is money. So money works. This all credit works. Credit takes time to build, and if you jack it up your credit get jacked up overnight. It's not get jacked up overnight. It takes time to build up again. Teach children that. Then you about, all right, here's a loan, but if you take $400, here's the interest rate, which means now owe me more. And they'll be like, wait, but if you invest it, don't touch it, you'll get more money back. And just knowing this stuff, and then because I don't know, it's something that needs to be taught, and you can make it fun, you can make it sexy, and make it enjoyable turning the game versus thinking, oh, this is boring and complicated, because that's how they get you. It's boring and complicated when it's not. So
so this is going to be kind of like a fun question, right? But it may not be. It may touch some people because this cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, these are big things right now. And I've heard people saying, I took out a $5,000 loan and bought some Bitcoin.
See,
tell me your thoughts.
So my take on crypto is research. Same thing if you're going to be investing, research. If you know someone you trust that buy the course, research, because crypto, I believe is here to stay, is anti-inflationary, all these things, but don't take out a loan for cryptocurrency. Invest what you feel you're okay with losing on it. I'm taking, when I get paid and put money to, some like XRP, things like that, not financial advice, but like, just be careful with it because there's so many different ones out there, and we'll see what happens. The ones that have actual utility use, those are the ones you look into. If you're just trying to make some money with it and hopefully get rich, you're gonna go broke and just so.
Yeah, and my thing is just be mindful of accruing debt. Like Brandon says, he said to actually know your numbers. So just be careful, be mindful of rates and how much is it going to cost you for that money and all that good stuff. Your investing strategy is totally your investing strategy. So Matt said, and I'm sorry, Brandon says there is no incentive for them to educate us to be smart with our money. Matt, you said something. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But there is an incentive for us to educate ourselves and keep building us up instead of depending on someone else. You have to be inspired and do things yourself and know that you can do it. And that's the problem with a lot of things in our society. We're being taught that you depend on someone else, you can't do it yourself, and that's taken away from us. So that when we do something on ourselves, we are denied the joy, the experience of feeling of, I got this and did this on my own. You cannot put a price tag on that.
Yeah.
Period in a store. I'll say it on that. Might drop. You're welcome, Michelle. I'm done.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. But I do want to segue really quickly. We're going to wrap up soon, but I want to talk about this children's game and talk about the next generation, right? And when it comes to credit matter. So tell us about this children's game that you're putting together.
Well, it's not fully developed yet, but what I'm looking to do is
don't give away any IP. Don't give away any intellectual property.
Oh yeah, well, I don't have it fully figured out yet, but I got you. But it'll be centered around credit and using to build. So I think I might have like two different versions, one for the younger ones and one for the older ones for like the preteens and teenagers, and have it where they have to learn how this works. Maybe they have some things happen to them as they're playing a board game, things like that. But for all the ones, it's like if you really want to practice this to get them in the habit of it, like have a chart up with all three bureaus. They do certain things. They get a on-time payment, whatever the case may be. And to along the way make that one I want to keep that difficulty called the keeping it real. Like this is how long it takes, and there's gonna be some consequences, and that's something that you and your child would have to discuss. But I'd make mine real draconian and be like, if you don't have a 600 FICO score, you can't sleep in your room for like 2 weeks because it's to mimic. It's Yeah, like if if
No
your score ain't
mortgage,
high
you have a
enough, you can't
place.
get a place to live. You should be like, this is how it works. And at least you learn a much more less intense version. I mean, I've joked to be like, sorry, son, only kids with a 650 FICO get to eat breakfast. You know what I mean? Go real hard with it.
That's terrible. That is terrible. So, how do you teach your 12-year-old about credit?
If
Give
I
us a
had
tip.
children, here's what I would do. And that's a good question that you asked me. How would I teach them? I would make it into a game and explain we're going to play a game and teach you how this works and have short-term rewards and a long-term like end goal prize, because you have to have that, especially for younger children. All right, as adults we can do what we need to do, and teach now and be like, let's talk about credit, how this works, and here's the game that we're going to play. There are 3 bureaus, and say, look, if you do chores, or you got to pay us money every month, $5, keep it like real small, and each time you do this, you get a check mark. And then also do it where the higher score, you get certain points, things like that. And especially if you have multiple children, it could work better to make it like a race, or if not, I guess get a friend involved to see who can get the higher score, keep it going along the way, and have like a random events card to be like, oops, you have fraud, and then you get to work on doing that, things like that, and just give them and teach them like this is how it works over time, to build it, to get used to it, so they understand that like very few things in life come quick.
Yeah.
You didn't get to where
Yeah.
you are in real estate in 6 months to a year. It
Mm.
it takes time, and there are things that come up for you, and teach them like, if this sort of happened to you, what would you do? How would you deal with it? Here's how you deal with it. You know what I mean? And say, look, if you jack this up, here's what I went through. Here's what happened to you. And if you really want to make this game more challenging, we can add that element there to a certain extent. Now, I'm not gonna kick you out of the house. That'd be wrong, but it'd be,
You would.
still good points. Like, yeah, sorry.
He doesn't have children yet, guys. That's why he's like,
Exactly. That's just me though. I'd be like, you really go hard with this? Okay.
awesome. So, guys, we are so excited, Matt. So, again, we're having a Credit Matters Month. Matt is here with A1 Solutions Group. His website is on screen, a1solutionsgroup.com. And he dropped a lot of good gems on us today. He talked about how to get rid of, first and foremost, make sure your personal information is accurate on your credit reports, right? We're not having a conversation today about how to fix bad credit. Our conversation is about how to leverage credit to build a legacy, to build generational wealth, which includes those of us from 450 to 750 and up credit scores, right? Because things can change in the drop of a hat. So the key one is to be proactive, to update your personal information. Medical records, you have a little bit of leverage because it can be a HIPAA violation. Key is to definitely get in touch with the debtor, try to pay them, but you can kind of dispute it with some HIPAA violations. Be mindful, accounts are sold from your lenders and they're sold often. So if you dispute something and it comes back, it could have been sold somewhere else. The best thing that Matt recommends is a pay for delete letter from the creditor. They're not easy to get, but make sure you try to get that. And if you can, consolidate your student loans and
Oh
try to
yeah.
get rid of that debt as soon as possible.
I want to harp on one more thing and give like a credit hack or secret.
Yay.
So one thing I want to end this on is knowing how your credit score grows. A lot of people don't know. Like I said, I started this off a little bit earlier. So 35% is payment history, biggest chunk. Miss a payment, you're going to be knocked back 20 steps. Next biggest chunk, credit utilization, or how they say is what you owe. It's more so with credit cards, right? That's 30% of your score. And unfortunately, I've talked to people who've been like, credit cards are evil. To which I say, congratulations, you played yourself, DJ Khaled, because you're denying yourself 30% of your score. Credit cards are needed, all right? And because the thing is, if all you have are installment loans, being student loans, car note, personal loans, things like that, so long as you pay those loans on time, you get points. As soon as the loans are paid off, which they will be, you want them to be, right? It's going to sit there on your credit report as a positive item for 10 years, not giving you any active points. The revolving credit is what is needed to continue to grow
Mm.
your score so that you can eventually get to 700s and the 800s. Okay. All right. The next biggest chunk after that is length of credit history, 15%. So the older your accounts are, the more points you get. And it also looks at your average age. But the older accounts get, the better it looks, the more points you get. Because lenders look at that too. They look at the age. Because if you're like, if you have a 700 credit score, but one trade line, one account, and it's only 6 months old, you'll get declined for lack of credit history and a thin credit profile. After that, 10% is the mixed credit, meaning you have some installment loans, a couple credit cards, maybe you have your utilities and rent being reported on your file as well. The next chunk after that, the final one is 10%. Mixed credit is 10%, and the final chunk is 10% is new accounts. So if you add credit, strategically when you need to, you do get points for having new revolving credit. Okay. So you can have 50 credit cards and with penalized, it's just a matter of how many can you manage. If it's only 3, then stick to 3. If you can manage 20, then do it. Just don't go crazy with it because you'll just go back and just credit card debt. You want to do that. So, okay. So that's how your score grows. Notice in there, I didn't say anything about paying collections and charge-offs because that doesn't help your credit score whatsoever. Okay. Now, going back to credit cards with the hack. If you want to really help to ensure your score never drops, right? What you want to do for all the credit cards that you have is call each of the credit cards that you have, the company, and find out when the statement date is. Not the due date, statement date. Why? Because it's on the statement date, that's the balance that gets reported to the bureaus. So what you want to do is move your due date a little bit before the statement date. Make sure you can do that financially, okay? And here's what you do. If you have the resources, and if you don't, you do this responsibly. Now you know when statement is, because then if your balances are all above 30% of the limit, you can pay them down to below 30, 10%, 2% is ideal, okay? As long as you get below 30, fine. This way you're showing low utilization with the bureaus, and it helps your scores, and you're paying your bill on time too as well. Then plan this part out. I will say this. So if you got high limit credit cards, you really want to go crazy with them, you plan this out where you have the cash first, do your trip, then before statement date, the cash that you saved up, you pay the sucker down to like 2%, that gets reported to the bureaus, and you're good to go.
Yeah. I mean, guys, I've seen it myself, right? Because I deal with a lot of clients, obviously. But I've seen it myself where someone has maxed out a card and they're like, oh my gosh, I need a down payment assistance program, or I want to go conventional. Of course, in this market right now, everyone wants to go conventional, right? Gives us a little bit more leverage in a competitive seller's market. So the challenge is I've maxed out my card. I don't know what to do. Well, if once they paid the car down, I mean, the score has jumped. Like I've seen someone go from a 650 to a 720 in like less than 30 days just by paying
Yeah.
down a max car.
Yeah. And I want to add on that too, that it's weird because 35% score is payment history. And I've seen this many times where people have multiple credit cards, payment history is on point, no lates, but the utilization is high and their score is like 100 points lower. And I'm like, how does that make any sense?
Yeah.
But that's what happens. That utilization will override that, and your scores will plummet. But this way, if you keep the balances, under that, you're fine.
Yeah.
So what I tell people, especially if they're rebuilding their credit cards, just keep it chill. That's it. Because at the end of the day, too, here's the thing. When it comes to revolving credit, if your payment's going to be $5 a month or 200, missing either payment will tank your credit score. So while you can, if you can, why not keep it as cheap as possible? Because you still get the same results anyway.
Yeah.
Something to think about. The more you know, star.
Awesome. And Matt, we're gonna have to have you back because I have so many other questions that I want to ask you in front of people, not just one on one. But thank you so much for joining us, Matt. Guys, again, this is Matt Dillingham with A1 Solutions Group. You can find him at a1solutionsgroup.com. Matt offers
I can give you a phone
license.
number.
Yeah, what's the phone number?
So if they want to reach me, if it's like people want to reach me directly, I'll give you my direct cell. It's 240. Jimena can hear this. 418-2646. I wish I could type it in.
I
Won't
know.
allow me to
Two
do
six
so.
four six.
Yeah, 240-418-2646.
And
And then
this is all over the internets, right?
not that. The business line is the 703
Okay.
number.
But
But if you
this
want,
240 number that you're talking about, this is all over the internet. You know that, right?
oh, it's fine. I know.
Okay.
I got my cell on like another YouTube channel I've used to help people with like personal things, so it's fine.
Okay.
And then they want to email me. That is hopefully they can. I'll have to say it and spell it out. It's mdillingham@a1solutionsgroup.com. So
You should
it's
have just
M as
did
in
Matt
Mike.
at.
Yeah, exactly. It's M as in Mike, D as in Delta, ILL, N as in Nancy, G as in golf, HAM as in Mike at a1solutionsgroup.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks, everyone out
Thanks
there.
for
Thanks,
having me.
Brandon. Thanks, all my Facebook and YouTube users. Guys, next time, just click on the little StreamYard link and then we can see your faces and they can live in perpetuity with us here on the internet. So,
Again.
thanks for joining. Thank you
Cool.
so much for joining us, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
Bye, guys.
All right.